Hello and welcome to Inside Eco Devo, an economic development podcast helping Missourians prosper. On this inaugural episode, we'll be giving you an inside look on the Missouri Department of Economic Development, talking about who we are and what we do. Sitting down with us to give insight on the topic is Maggie Kost, the acting director for the department. Maggie, welcome and thanks for taking the time to speak with us.
Thanks so much, Eric.
Yeah, so we're going to obviously be diving into the department, but before we do that, if you could just give us a little bit of a background on yourself. I know you've kind of worked your way up through the department, and I feel like you have great perspective when talking about the department.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I started my career at the Springfield Area Chamber of Commerce, so in communications and getting to see the different areas that the chamber did, one of which was economic development and helping businesses to expand and grow in that region and attracting new businesses to that region. So certainly have had a career in economic development. From there, I went to the Missouri Community College Association, again in communication, so I got some good experience seeing how our community colleges can help develop our workforce, which, as we know, is one of the things that we hear from businesses constantly, especially in today's economy, as a huge need and an obstacle for growth for businesses across our state. And then from there, I came to the department, worked in communications, then oversaw our strategy and performance division, which really looks at kind of where the economy is going and how the department needs to be adapting in order to meet the needs of our economy and help Missourians prosper across our state. And from there, the rest is history. Now I've gone on to be deputy director and now acting director.
So you have a lot of experience and a lot of insight on today's topic.
Yeah, one of the great things about being in communications and coming from that background is that you touch a lot of different parts of the organizations that you're in, and you learn a little bit about everything. So it's been pretty fun to go along that journey.
Yeah. So give us a rundown on the department itself. Like, who are we as the Department of Economic Development? What do we do?
Yeah, absolutely. So our mission as the Department of Economic Development is to help Missourians prosper. And I love that word prosper because it's really about helping folks to have a better life, but in a very financial way, right? We want to make sure that they can have a good job, a job that can help provide for their families, for future generations. And that, I think, is something that's really exciting, an exciting thing about our department. We do that in a lot of different ways, and we have a lot of different partners across the state that help us to accomplish that mission.
Okay, so within all of that, I mean, I'm sure our primary focus is kind of really check all those boxes. Can you kind of go into what our primary focuses are as the department?
Yeah, absolutely. At its core, I talked about job creation there. So we are here to help Missouri businesses to expand and grow. We also work very closely with Missouri Partnership to attract new business and jobs to our state and to retain the jobs that we have in our state. In order to do that, you have to have really strong communities that are prepared for growth, that have the infrastructure, the roads, the broadband in place for growth. The water, wastewater infrastructure as well is incredibly important. So we have programs that help us to make sure that our communities are ready for growth and that our businesses are ready and choosing Missouri to grow. We also help make sure that we tackle some of those top issues that businesses are seeing. And I mentioned workforce is one of them. We have the Missouri One Start division, which helps businesses to really meet their needs and access other resources across state government or across the state relating to workforce development. And then finally, one of the largest industries in our state is our tourism industry, and we house the Division of Tourism as well. And they help to attract visitors to our state to make sure that businesses are getting that revenue that comes in from those visitors that are coming here to Missouri.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a lot of fingers in the pie, so to speak. We touch a lot of different things from workforce to business to tourism. So, I mean, I think it's been said about our department a few times that we're a much smaller department now since we kind of went through a reorg. We're small but mighty. We tackle quite a lot.
Yeah, we do. We are small and mighty. We are lean and we get a lot done. And we have just an amazing team here at the department who is so focused on that mission to help Missourians prosper and so passionate about it. I'm incredibly proud to be a part of this team.
Yeah. And I kind of half mentioned the reorg there. And I mean, I know, I don't want to, go into something where we're looking in the past, but the department has kind of changed in the past couple of years to what we are now. Can we just kind of touch upon that briefly before we kind of dive into other things?
Yeah, absolutely. At the start of the Parson administration, DED Missouri was not doing as well as we wanted to be doing as far as competing for jobs, competing with other states in the Midwest for projects and things like that. We were actually one of the largest economic development agencies in the Midwest. We were the least effective whenever you look at some of the top metrics. And so it's not an easy thing to do, to go to your boss on day one, the governor, and say, hey, we're not doing so well, and we've got to do something about it. It's not exactly the first impression you want to have, but Governor Parson has been just an amazing advocate for economic development, for workforce and infrastructure, those two core components that you have to have in order to grow your economy. And so he has been supportive of making changes at the department, of getting laser focused on that mission and developing that mission really to get behind, to rally behind. And so we made some changes. We said, there might be some parts of the department that maybe would fit better elsewhere in state government. And so certain things moved out of the department, and we really honed in on helping our businesses, helping our communities, and of course that tourism mission as well, which helps promote business in our state that benefit from our tourism industry.
Yeah, and all of that is setting us up for the excitement that's happening in the department right now. We got a lot of new things kind of happening, a new division, some federal funding coming in for ARPA and broadband and things of those natures. Give us kind of an inside look, if you will, on some of the exciting things that are happening in the department right now.
Absolutely. So we could not have reshaped our department at a better time. Nobody could have anticipated the pandemic, but streamlining the department, making ourselves more nimble, really helped prepare us for that, to be able to respond to those changes that we were seeing in the economy. And again, credit goes to Governor Parson for taking a really balanced approach and thinking about both the lives and the livelihoods, the health and the economic impact of the pandemic. And out of that, we've really been given a new set of tools that we're going to be able to use to ensure the long-term recovery and growth of our state. And our state's doing incredibly well. We have one of the lowest unemployment rates that we've had in the history, the 50 years that we've been measuring unemployment. We have the lowest unemployment rate right now, which is just absolutely incredible. And again, it speaks to that balanced approach that we took during the pandemic. Now we have a ton of tools at our disposal that's going to help us come out of this period of time and be even more competitive than what we were before. Specifically, we have $30 million for workforce development. We have hundreds of millions of dollars for broadband development and building out that infrastructure in our state. That program actually just launched on Monday, and which was incredibly exciting, and the team rallied and celebrated that because that's going to really be transformational for communities across our state. When you think about rural communities and how they're set up for growth and the opportunities that exist with remote work and the shifts that we're seeing in the workforce, that's an exciting tool for us to have because we know that here in Missouri, we have a low cost of living. We have a great quality of life. We have all of these natural amenities that make this a great place to live and work. And we need broadband for people to be able to realize that in some of those rural communities. And that's a tremendous opportunity for them. So we've got lots on the horizon, a community revitalization program that's going to be able to do generational projects for communities across our state, and many more things that are very exciting. And again, this is a moment for us where, depending on how we use these tools, it will set up the future of the state, the future of our economy for generations to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to dive too much into granular stuff when it comes to broadband, because we hope to cover them in an entirely different episode. But the funding and the expansion of the Office of a Broadband, that's kind of historic because it hasn't happened before.
Yeah,
right? There's a lot of opportunity going on there.
Absolutely. So, we went from having from having no one handling broadband for the state on behalf of the state, deploying resources, helping to kind of coordinate and organize efforts, to having one person, Tim Arbeiter, shout out to Tim because he did such an amazing job kind of founding that office and setting the foundation. Now we're quickly ramping up that office to be able to deploy hundreds of millions of dollars in resources, and there's more coming down from the federal level too. So I look forward to our podcast that I'm sure BJ is going to do with us. He's got some great ideas, and his team is energized and excited, and we've got a great number of folks who've come on board to help us with that effort.
Yeah, absolutely. And to touch upon one additional thing, and again, not to go into too much detail because we hope to sit down with Shad or anybody else from the federal initiatives team, but that's a whole new division for us, and they're tackling a whole historic amount of federal dollars to help Missourians prosper even more.
Yeah, absolutely. So the federal stimulus that the legislature entrusted DED with is going to all be administered by our new federal initiatives team. And again, much like broadband, this is a brand new team within the department, and they are gearing up to deploy these funds. We've got some great folks on board. And Shad has been leading that effort, making sure that we're communicating with partners at the local level. He's doing regular webinars. He's been going around and speaking across the state and talking about what we're doing, helping to make sure that this go around that we're listening and we're putting things out for public comment, and we're really building these programs and shaping them in a way that helps our communities achieve things that they wouldn't have been able to achieve without this sort of generational level of funding and tools that we have at our disposal.
Yeah, a lot. So needless to say, a lot of exciting things happening, and a lot of work going on behind the scenes. To that end, with all of the funds that are coming in and all the work that's happening, there is a divide on what we do as a State Department versus what happens on the local or federal level. Can you kind of talk about where, for lack of a better term, the jurisdiction, if you will, kind of takes place for our department and what we do? Yeah,
I mean, I served in AmeriCorps early on in my career, and we had a saying, and it was see the need, meet the need. And the department operates in much the same way. So we could not function without our local partners. At the same time, we know that there are areas of the state that maybe don't have as many resources. They don't have staff to handle economic development or to attract new business to the state. So we kind of joke at the department that we're the expanding foam in economic development. We're there when our local partners need us to be, at whatever level they need us to be. And the same thing goes for the federal level, too. A lot of times we'll work with our federal partners whenever there's money coming down to the state. Sometimes they handle it more directly. Sometimes it flows through us. It really depends on the program. The main thing is that we're here to be a partner and to collaborate and to really break down those silos, not only between state, local, and federal, but also across agencies in state government. Never before, I would say, have we had the level of collaboration that we do in state government as what we do in this administration. I was just at the ham breakfast here this week, and the Department of Agriculture was talking about projects that we've worked on, economic development projects that had crossover with agriculture, that had crossover with our Department of Natural Resources, with our Department of Transportation. It takes all of those folks coming together within state government to make some of these big projects, these job creation projects happen, and to make companies want to choose Missouri over the many other locations that they could choose globally. And I'm so appreciative of my fellow cabinet agencies and the collaboration and the level of collaboration that we have.
Yeah. So we've touched upon, at a high level, what the department's doing right now. What does, nobody has a crystal ball, but what does the future look like? Where does the road go for the Department of Economic Development? What are we hoping for?
Yeah, I mean, no one has a crystal ball, but certainly as we look at the economy, that's going to dictate what we need to do as a department and how we need to shift. And we're seeing some pretty big trends in economic development. We've seen, generational changes happen in our culture, in our workforce. We're seeing a lot of retirements, That's adding to the workforce challenges that we're seeing. I don't see that going away. So we're going to have to continue to focus on workforce development. That means not only training up folks, it means tapping into those folks who maybe aren't in the workforce for a variety of reasons. We're seeing more and more economic developers are talking about childcare and how that's an obstacle for folks to get into the workforce. And I think you're going to see that in some of the governor's initiatives that are coming up over the next year. We've certainly seen it in some of the initiatives over the last year. And I think that's a challenge. It's not going to be easy to fix. It's something that's going to be there for a while. The same thing with remote work. I talked about a little bit earlier, some of the shifts that we're seeing in our culture and our economy around remote work. That's something that we're going to have to figure out how we navigate, because it's not, many of our tools that we have are not necessarily designed to accommodate remote work. And how do we adapt to that? How do we adapt to those changes that we're seeing? If companies are struggling to hire, they're struggling to find workers, they're going to be less likely to create those jobs because they're afraid they can't fill them. So how do we maintain the viability of our plants that we have, our facilities that we have here in Missouri, those businesses that are located here, if all of our tools are designed for job creation, but companies are hesitant to create jobs because they can't find the workers? How do we still keep them here versus going to another state where those jobs would be considered new jobs? There are tools that would attract them there. Those are some of the trends that we're watching and we're looking at and figuring out how we can tackle that alongside our local and federal partners in the years to come.
And all of that, I mean, just sounds like it goes hand in hand with our motto of helping Missourians prosper. So in that end, because it's our mission, and I mean, a lot of what you were just saying there probably is the answer to the question, but what are we doing to further that mission and really own it instead of it just being words on paper?
Yeah, I mean, it's not about talk at the department. We're about action. And I think you can look at some of our recent successes to see that action in play out in real life. Here pretty soon we're going to be breaking ground on a facility in Warren County for the newest beef processing plant in the state of Missouri. It's 1,400 new jobs, right? And all of the tools that I just talked about, we're going to be putting to work to make sure that that facility is viable. We put them to work to make sure that the company wanted to come here. So Missouri One Start is going to be working to recruit and train people for that to work at that new facility. We've used some of our economic development tools to make it more attractive and more affordable for the company to locate there. And all of that comes together. And at the end of the day, you have 1,400 new jobs that are above the average county wage that mean that people are going to be able to put food on the table. They're going to be able to put their kids through school. They're going to be able to take care of their families because we help to bring those jobs here to our state.
Yeah. So I know we've kind of danced around a lot of stuff that the department's doing. We for this first episode, we wanted to keep it high level. We didn't want to get too granular because we're going to do that with some different program leads and different divisions inside the department. But to kind of wrap it up, is there anything that people should know about the department that would be either helpful for them or what have you?
Yeah, I say stay tuned to this podcast because I think you're going to learn a lot about the department, the different areas of the department, all the things that we do to help Missourians prosper. We have programs that help businesses. We have programs that help communities, from our community development block grant to our neighborhood assistance program to our youth opportunities program. There's just so much out there. And we're going to be doing a lot through the podcast, through other communication tools to really help folks learn a little bit more about the department and what we do. You can't capture it in just one podcast, so stay tuned.
Yeah, absolutely. And I said it at the top and I'll reiterate it here. Thank you for taking the time to sit down and kind of go over some stuff with us. I know it's a very busy time. We just outlined a lot of things that are happening. I know you're a very busy person, so thank you very much.
Absolutely. Happy to do it, Eric.
Thank you for listening to this episode, and if you want to find out more about what's happening in the Missouri Department of Economic Development, including current programs and upcoming opportunities, be sure to subscribe to this podcast inside EcoDevo. You can also visit our website, ded.mo.gov, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And if there is an economic development topic you're interested in hearing more about, then let us know by emailing ded.communications@ded.mo.gov. That's ded.communications@ded.mo.gov.